we did go over preparing for your annual audit, and I had my fabulous auditor on the call with us. And he was great, and he did a wonderful job presenting. This year, we're doing a little bit different approach, and we're just sharing our tips and tricks and our way of organizing and preparing for our audit, sharing resources. Please feel free to unmute yourself at any time, put a question in the chat at any time. We will be sharing resources, but if you have your own tips and tricks for your annual audit, we would love to hear that. I do know that we have some brand new superintendents that have started this year, and they are looking to hear just expertise from the field, expertise that all of you have and share. And I would love to hear your feedback throughout any of our calls, but I'm going to go ahead and start presenting. And all right. You know what? Let me do this. I need to present my screen on here. All right. Are you all able to see the slideshow? Perfect. Okay. Irma and I are actually going to be presenting this today. And that is a photo of me from a few years ago. So if I have a few more lines or wrinkles, please don't mind that. But Irma and I have been working together at Paloma for almost 20 years. We have changed our roles over the time, but we have been doing audits together for over a decade. And we've worked out a little system that we hope could benefit you. Today, we're going to be going over just how we organize information, procurement, personnel files, how we do separation of duties in our small district, the general fixed assets and stewardship listings, along with getting set up for your ADM student attendance, your technology disaster recovery plan and testing, and then just some audit odds and ends. Hopefully you have not had your audit quite yet, and you can get some tools before they come on site to organize your information. We became a Google district around COVID time, a little bit before, but we do organize all of our information in Google Drive. It is also a part of our disaster recovery plan because Google Drive is accessible from different devices in different places. It has been a way that we can back up all of our information daily, just minute by minute through our Google Drive. And it has helped us really organize our files. So I would just recommend finding a system that works for you. But a shared Google Drive is free, and it is a great way of organizing information. So I just have A, B, C, D, E, F files, just like you would in a normal filing cabinet. And then this is in my audit file. And as you can see, I just stack all my audit information into my Google Drive year after year. And it's a great way to find when they ask for information that kind of goes over both years, it's there and accessible pretty easily. Just really quickly going over our procurement. So this is just an image of my audit 25 folder, which we are going to be going through our audit, I believe, next month. So this was good prep for us too, to just make sure that we were all ready. And they are going to be asking for your quote for anything that are between 10,000 and 100,000. Your bids or your RFPs for over 100,000. I'm going to just show you how I manage my cooperative purchases and my due diligence, along with emergency procurement, sole source procurement. But anything that your district spends more than 10,000 on a vendor, you have to have some kind of backup for it. So an easy way to look to see who you need backup for is to run those vendor total reports, and just look for anything that's over the 10,000 mark, and make sure you have your files ready. So here is, I just make simple little spreadsheets for keeping my quote information. I do it for the sole source and for the cooperative purchases as well. But I always put the board approval date in the spreadsheet because they're going to want to look for your minutes where it was approved by the board. And as long as I have these here, that I can just find it a lot more easily. And then this is also my quote sheet that I had made up to keep track of the quotes. And then I usually just put all the backup with the AP files, and I'll write that in the notes so that we can just grab the AP file and pull it out. At the end of today's session, we're going to share the quote sheet with you if you need it. And just, I'm going to share my spreadsheets with you with the information. I figure it's public information, so it doesn't matter, but then you can change them if you want. And then I have the same spreadsheet year after year after year, and I just duplicate it every year and make a new tab. So in my spreadsheet, there's FY23, FY24, FY25. And then I can just kind of keep track of those amounts over the year. Any questions about that? Okay, moving on. This was one I didn't understand very well when I first started, and they would ask for my due diligence. And I would always go, well, I checked their prices. Isn't that due diligence? But it wasn't quite. So I do have a spreadsheet for my vendors that we use on the cooperative contracts. We mostly use Mojave and 1GPA, as you can see there. And before, usually in June and July, I will just make a big board agenda item with a whole bunch of vendors that I think I'm going to spend more than $10,000. And I estimate how much I think we're going to spend with them for that year. And I just keep in my notes that I already received board approval for these. And then I also go to the 1GPA and Mojave contract website and put my initials and just handwrite on them that I have reviewed the due diligence that is available in Mojave and 1GPA. And I sign and date it, and then I just keep a scanned copy in my records. And a lot of these, the contracts last for multiple years. So then I'll just update it the next year for the auditors, and I'll just write the date on it again. Sometimes digitally, so I don't even have to keep track of the paper. But these are all just kept in that file then. Emergency procurement. This is just, again, a screenshot of my simple, very, very basic spreadsheet. But I just wanted to show on here that, I have Kelly Bros on here for an emergency procurement item. It was only $2,000, but that $2,000 item put us over the $10,000 threshold with that vendor. And I hadn't had board approval for spending more than $10,000 with this vendor. So I put it on as an emergency procurement item to say, this put us over the $10,000. It was an emergency. We didn't estimate that we were going to spend more than $10,000, and they aren't on a cooperative contract, but they installed all of our doors. So they have the information to fix them. And we don't really have anyone else that has the same access that they do. And then sole source, we do have our sole source vendors, but I have seen the auditors frown on this more and more as the years go by. And so if there's any way to get a quote, we do work on getting a quote. So I have these two vendors on sole source, and I'll list them in sole source, but I also will get a quote that shows that I have reached out to other vendors to ask if they provide services. And then, so I will say everyone on the sole source list, I'm getting quotes for now anyway. And a lot of times, like in these two instances, Paloma Security is the only place that we can get that kind of service right now. And Chatter Therapy is the only OT service that will come on site for our preschool and kindergarten kids. Otherwise, it would be virtual, but we just have little kids. So I'll still get quotes, and but I'll include it in both places. That makes. All right. Now I am going to let Irma talk about personnel. She's in charge of keeping our personnel files organized. So Irma, if you can come on and.
Hello. Can you hear me? I couldn't hear you, Kristen. So with our personnel on the audit, they ask for that we have a contract and a PR form, the loyalty oath, the I-9, W-4 and A-4 for the current year. And I know that some employees sometimes hate to fill out their W-4s or A-4s, but it is required a yearly updated form, a voluntary deduction form, and direct deposit authorization, and of course your fingerprint clearance card, and whatever other documents your district requires, which would be what is in your board policy, like your loyalty oath would be what's in your board policy. And for compensated absences, we have a picture here of our spreadsheet that we use for the auditors. So at the end of the fiscal year, after I run my last payroll, I reconcile my absences, my compensated absences, and then whatever my total is, I enter it into the spreadsheet with the pay rate, the beginning balance of days from that fiscal year, and then beginning dollars and what they earned in the current year and what days they've used and what we ended up with at the end of the fiscal year. Any questions?
All right.
You can go on to the next slide, please.
Okay. Thank you. So in our little single site districts, we still do some separation of duties. And I just wanted to share what it looks like on our district, because this is an area that we struggled with in the beginning, but no longer struggle with at all. So for like accounts payables and receivables, I'm the only one in our district who can create the purchase order. And then we have another person who will sign off on anything that we receive. So they'll sign off on the packing slips. We have another person who processes the payments, and then Irma mails the checks. So we have one person who does a little bit of each of that role. Similarly with payroll, Irma will process the payroll, and then I sign off on every component of the payroll piece, so that we have the backup that she processed it, I signed off on it, and then it was processed. For our checks, so for our revolving funds and our personnel benefit plan account, all of those different accounts, we have 2 signatures on every single check. So there's one line, but we have 2 signatures on every single check, so that no one can write a check and take it or do anything. So we always make sure that we have the 2 signatures on there. And we have 3 signers. So if one of us is gone, we can still always get that second signature. For our bank accounts, Irma will record the checks and the bank balances in through the checkbook. And then we have somebody else who will sign off monthly to make sure that they're balanced appropriately and that the payments went to, correct situations. But again, each of those checks has already been signed twice anyway. And then for credit cards, we have 3 people who can purchase on a credit card, but we only have one person who collects all the receipts and pays the credit card. So no one who purchases on the credit card ever pays the credit card off. So just always having double eyes on everything. Someone to always look over somebody else's work. And we get pretty clean responses on our audits by having this kind of separation of duties. All right. Next, I'm going to have Irma go over best practices with our general fixed asset.
For general fixed assets, yeah, it's a lot of time consuming. But best practices is everything over 1,000 gets tagged and inventoried. If you move something, you need to, in the system, in Visions, enter and put where you changed that asset, the location of it. Stewardship listing is for items between 1,000 and 4,999, which all of that would probably be like laptops, the little things. We tag everything. We tag stewardship and we tag asset. It's just an easier way to keep track of. And if we're gonna get rid of something or doesn't work no longer and stuff, we always go back to that tag number and remove it from our after board approval. And 5,000 and greater, a lot of those things would be like vehicles, buildings. I mean, there are some items that are on like physical items you see, but a lot land and stuff. Those can be tagged according to however you want. There's an example here with building and improvements. That's our tag number for it. It can say like BI and then a little description of what it is. For example, like our solar panel, it says BI 000 solar panels. Vehicles, we have run into where they want us to physically tag them with the tag, but then we've also been told just to use the plate number for that vehicle. We do both because we have run into a problem where we put the plate number in as the tag number, and then they said, no, we want a physical tag on it. So now we do both, a tag and a plate number. You put your tag number. We do this. I mean, and it's probably easier. And when after you process your accounts payable and you mail out the check and stuff, you put the tag number on all your accounts payable backup. And that's just an easy reference to come back. Oh, this is tag number so-and-so. We have a consultant that does our GFA for us. All we do is the tagging. But when he asks us for the backup, that's just an easy way for us to get it and send it on to him so that he can put it in our system. And the separation of duties, we have, it's me, myself, and another person, which sometimes is Brittany. She tags them and then I go in and do the inventory on it. But like I said, it's probably better because it is time consuming. There is a lot of backup and stuff that's required of it. We use a consultant that helps us with all of our GFA. And when our audit is happening, he forwards all the listings, all the reports that the auditors require.
And I'll say one of the most interesting items with the GFA tagging was that things I never considered, like we built our kitchen in 2020 and we got a write-up because we did not tag the hood over our stove. And we also had to tag the walk-in fridge and freezer, which I consider just a part of the building, but they
Yeah.
tag. So so it was helpful to have a consultant help find those things to realize that they need to be tagged. That was just one. All right. Yeah. There we go. Irma, this one is you as well.
ADM and student attendance. This is something that when I first started doing this, I didn't know what reporting and what we needed for our audit. Like, what was an easy way to go back and look and make sure that our reconciliations were correct from our student information system and what was at ADE. But I found that the STUD 72, those are the reports. That is what the auditors go off of, what was reported to the state. So yeah, I know some schools have a lot of students. We probably don't. It's a lot easier for us because we don't have, we have a little over 100. But at the end of the school year, after we do our last upload, we reconcile our attendance and we run a STUD 72 report for each student using their state student ID number. And that is how we reconcile what went up to the state and versus what we have in our student information system. That gives you the actual absences that were submitted for that student. With sometimes there's discrepancies especially when they sign out, and just depending on what time they sign out. Kindergarten, half day, and sometimes they're credited. And this STUD 72 report also gives all the information as to what their enrollment code was, what their withdrawal activity was, all that student's information that should match your entry and withdrawal form that is in their Q file. All of it should match because they will ask for the student's Q file and they will ask for the STUD 72 report. So all that information has to match. And that's a good way to reconcile at the end of the school year to make sure that everything went up correctly before you close out that year. Any questions?
Thank you, Irma. Every year too, we get asked for our technology disaster recovery plan. So I'm assuming that all of you get asked for this on an annual basis. We used the template that was provided to us, and then every year before the audit, we review it. Mostly we just need to change the names on there, right? Sometimes somebody moved or retires. And we'll review it each year before our audit. We have not done that this year yet, so we will be doing that momentarily. And then we also, we have a lot of power outages here. And so usually a power outage is one of our tests to make sure our technology disaster recovery plan is working. So you have to keep track of, an incident where you tested to see that you were able to maintain all your data. And this has just gotten so much easier. We used to have to back it up on a weekly basis and take out a hard drive and put it in the safe. But since we moved to Google Drive and our accounting system is in the cloud and our student information system is in the cloud, pretty much all of our information is saved day to day. And when the power goes out, we don't lose any information. And so we're able to show that we can maintain all of our data in different types of circumstances. Just to, I reached out to our auditor and asked, what were the changes this year? Those of you that get seasoned with audits, you may not look at this before your audit, and then you are surprised by a weird question that you did not know about, because you've never done it before. And it's because they change what they will ask for from year to year. And our auditor said that there weren't any major changes this year. That there were two changes, though, that you should be aware of. One, the district needs to submit the vehicle inventory reports to the superintendent of public instruction by July 15th. So if you have not done that, that will be a finding, but you could still submit it now to be like, oh, I didn't know, and I have submitted it, but that is a change for this year. And then for long-term debt, they made a new statute where you have to hold a meeting between September 1st and October 31st, to show what your plan is for the remainder of your bonding capacity, and that you allowed the public to come in and provide information about what they would like to see happen with your long-term bond capabilities. And if you have not done that, again, Irma and I, we have findings every year. We've gotten them down to the single digits, so I guess that is pretty good. Not sure where we started, but it was not in the single digits, that's for sure. And so when we see that we have made a mistake, we just try to correct it as soon as possible and go, yep, we made a mistake, but we did this as soon as we knew about it. So if you have missed either of those, I would just recommend doing them now, and saying, yep, we missed it, but we did it as soon as we became aware of it. But they come out with this, the questionnaire every year. It is on the Auditor General's website. So you can go and you can look to see what questions they're going to ask you at your audit, that they are required to ask you. And in this section, if you, I mean, these are the questionnaires they are required to submit. If you have findings in these areas, it doesn't necessarily mean anything significant. And no one ever has a perfect audit. Well, I'm sure there is. I've heard of somebody saying they had a perfect audit, but I don't know anyone in person really has perfect audits. So I know findings that we have every year are going to the bank. We are 45 minutes away from one of our banks that we have to make deposits. So we don't always do that within the week. We try to do our best. We've gotten a lot better, but it just doesn't always make sense. So, and just some audit odds and ends. We have gotten to a system where a lot of these audit odds and ends happen at the beginning of the year when everybody comes back. When we do our professional development training for our teachers, we also kind of throw in all of these other trainings. But the board approval that I have over here on the side, I am going to go over a couple of those. These were ASBA recommendations, so I'm sure if you're on ASBA, you already received them. But just as a reminder, they suggest having your conflict of interest for your board members every January. Your auditors will ask for those. They will also check to see that those of your staff that can purchase with a credit card have had training every year. So we do our credit card training every year in July. I literally have the same slideshow that I've used for years. We just review it and then we sign off on it again. They will ask for what I call the $300 training. And they will ask for that every year. I just made a little a sign-in sheet with the statute at the top that says if you accept items with a value of over $300, you will be, committing a crime. And you can't accept items for over $300 if you are also, as a personal benefit, but you can accept more than $300 in donations to your classroom. You can accept things on behalf of your classroom, but you cannot accept anything personally. And I just have the statute, have everybody read it and sign off on it every year. The other items that we try to do just every January is board approval of a student activities treasurer. You need to make sure you have board approval every year. Board approval of your bank. We keep the same banks. We don't even have a choice in one of them, but it says by statute that you have to have your board approve of your banks every year. And then the board approval of payment procedures. This one I would really like to make sure that you include in your board agenda every year. And that's the resolution to authorize the signing of your vouchers between board meetings. And then they're just ratified at the board meeting so that you can continue with your payroll. You can continue with your accounts payables, and you don't have to get the pre-approval of the board before making those payments. And that was what we thought. We tried to think of all the different angles for our upcoming audit. And if we missed anything, now would be a great time to share with everybody what you think we might have forgotten. And maybe your auditors asked for a different item than ours. But I am going to stop sharing this slideshow at this time. And just open it up to all of you. Do any of you have any other tips and tricks questions, or can you think of any items that we may have forgotten?
So this is Marissa from Topok.
With you.
Sorry. This is Marissa from Topok. We actually have two things. Thing number one, is there a courier service in Paloma? Topok had the same issue with things going to the bank in time. And we actually had a courier service, and it's been very helpful.
So we had a similar type of situation where we weren't actually using a courier service. We were using FedEx, but we were not meeting our deadline. So now we have partnered up with the nearby school district, Sentinel. So Steve, and we take turns going to pick up check because we weren't getting our items in time, even with FedEx services. But just a regular courier, we don't have any that come out this far. So we're partnering up. But great question.
And then my question is for the time tracking. Do you guys use the Vision software for that as well?
No, we do not. I do everything manually.
You do everything manually. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering because we use Visions for that, but we don't keep a record of it on spreadsheets. Should we do that? Should we do a spreadsheet, or do you think Visions is sufficient?
It's just you could use Visions. It's just that our auditors really like that spreadsheet. It's just easier. It's all the information they need, and they don't ask us for anything else.
Okay.
I would think too that if you use the Vision spreadsheet, your auditors will be fine with it as long as you manually sign off on it. So if you are putting the check mark next that a human went over it to make sure it makes sense, I would.
Okay. Yeah, we do that. Yeah. We enter into Visions and fast leave tracking, all of their stuff, the flyers in there, and then you can accrue rolls in there, and then you can print reports for all of it. Because we used to do a spreadsheet, and it was really hard to move to it just the way it was set up. The way it was set up or whatever. So we transitioned fully into Visions and out of the spreadsheet. And so we just wanted to make sure that you, while also using Visions, but we weren't missing stuff.
I'm sorry. Yes, I do Visions for that because that ties it into your payroll. Mm-hmm. But I also do handwritten. My hard copy. But that spreadsheet that is in the slide is the actual end of year. So at the end of the year, I reconcile, like after I reconcile my absences, I actually print out my visions reports and attach my leave slips for that specific staff member to that report. And then in the compensated absence spreadsheet, all I do is use the ending numbers.
Okay.
That goes into the spreadsheet.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hey, Kristen, I just wanted to echo what you said about what a perfect audit looks like and how hard that is to get to it, because we just finished ours. We had 5 findings. And the auditor, when I asked him, how long have you been doing this? 23 years. How many perfect audits have you had? He said 2. So 2 in 23 years. So if you have a couple of findings, we're obviously we're trying to aim for perfection, but we'll settle with excellence.
I absolutely agree with that. And it's good to share that information with your board as well. And I really think the auditor is looking for fiscal mismanagement, or if somebody is doing something nefarious. Otherwise, they seem pretty helpful on trying to get you on track for doing what is kind of expected. But again, nobody's perfect. So thank you for adding that, Dan. Anybody else have any other questions or comments about audit? Again, if you have something that you do that really helps, you share it. Okay. All right. Before we go, I'm all for giving you as much time as possible, and I really do appreciate everybody joining us today. We will follow up with sending the recording and the slideshow and the link to any of those spreadsheets or documents that you might want in case you want to adopt a similar system for yourself. But in the upcoming month, I struggled to kind of get started on this series this year because we have so many experts, but we also have some new people. And I didn't know if I wanted to revisit the same topic every year. But is there any topic that you would like to see coming up? I do. Yes, Peter.
Kristen, I think, what we need to talk about is, I wonder if we could get somebody from ADE from the safety department, the school safety, because all of the safety grants this year are going to be tied to your EOP. And so you have to submit your EOP, and they have completely changed what the EOP needs to look like. They've added a ton to it. And I sat in a meeting last week with the state, and it's daunting. So would be beneficial to maybe if we can get somebody here, because I think next week begins the series, the training series they're pushing out, that the school safety is. And, I'm curious of how rough this is going to be.
Do you know when the submission deadline is?
I haven't heard yet. We have the trainings. There's trainings, I think, on the 2nd and 3rd that they're sending out, webinars that they're doing. And I would imagine that's going to be in there, is that submission date. But it sounds like, since the legislators have now got involved, and funding has gone up, which is great. There's going to be more ties, more mandates on us in that EOP. And I just started revising mine, and I've been 2 weeks on it straight, and I'm still not even close to fixing it.
Were you one of the districts that went through the school safety audit?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Was anyone on this call involved in the school safety audit?
Topak was.
Topak was. How was that? If I can. ask?
The 3 people came down from Phoenix, and then they just walked around the campus for was 3 days or 2 days?
2 or 3 days.
Yeah,
they
2
were
or
here.
3 days, and just went to all our classrooms, spoke with the superintendent about just different scenarios.
They
different
wanted
stuff.
to know our key logs.
Our key logs, our fire stuff, like when you like have to lock someone in the room or whatever, those little fire sticks.
Yeah, how we do a lockdown and stuff like that.
Our safety on our playgrounds.
They tested the Mojave County Sheriff's response time.
What's that thing called? Yeah, what's that?
That is, I can't think of it.
I can't think of it either.
Anyways, they had
Raptor.
Raptor. We did the Raptors with them. They tested the Mojave County Sheriff's response time out here. They wanted to see the key log, who all has access to everything.
Yeah.
And I think Kaylee got the report for it already, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and then they just said pretty much it was just to gather information for all the districts. That's what you guys are talking about, right? That big thing that happened at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, they walked around our whole campus. Like I said, all our gates.
They talked to our teachers. They talked to students. They,
Oh, they watched the unloading and loading of the buses in the morning and afternoon.
Mhm.
So they watched, how we walk the kids out, how we, put the kids in there with their parents and all that stuff. They watched all that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Pick up drop-offs.
seen it. Oh, they drove around. Remember, we caught them driving around our school. We were like, what's going on? They drove around our school a couple times to see if anybody caught on to that.
Oh, yeah, they did.
And so we all walked out there and was like, can we help you? They're like, we were waiting to see if somebody would ask.
We're like,
So-
yeah, we watched them the first time. So yeah, just little stuff like that. Just little scenario stuff. And then they just asked a lot of questions and walked the whole campus for 2 days. So.
Okay. And I'm going to say too, Peter, I am signed up for one of the trainings. I think I'm signed up for the one on the 3rd. I will follow up with you after the training. Are you signed up for one of the training?
Yeah, I think I'm on the 3rd. I'd see the 2nd or 3rd. I can't remember which one I signed up for.
I'm going to reach out to you after the training just to brainstorm a little bit about what we think we could cover for this group.
Okay.
Be helpful. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Any other ideas for upcoming sessions?
Can I ask a quick question? The EOP training that you're talking about, who is that through? Is it ADE? Who is it through?
It's not an EOP training. It's the school safety. I'm Googling it right now. The school safety program year 1 application.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah, we've been talking about this coming up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going over your SRO, your SSO, your school safety grant that you're receiving the funding for the counselor or social worker. It's the new process to apply for that grant. And I think they're rolling out all the new grant restrictions that you have to hit now to qualify for it. And in the conference, they talked about EOP again and again and again. And they kind of didn't really tell us, other than the fact that the EOP is going to be a major part of this now. And pretty much essentially, if your EOP doesn't meet their guidelines, you're not going to qualify for the grant, which is scary because now we're going to lose funding for SRO, SSO stuff. So
Can I jump in real quick? Peter, what does EOP stand for?
emergency operational plan.
Oh, thank you. We just call it an emergency plan, so I was just getting lost on the acronym.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And they do have approved templates, correct? I think that's what we've used.
There's an approved template, but it's like the template itself has changed. The big thing is that there's on their website the video for a guide to ADE emergency operations checklist. The checklist is 45 pages long. And it's extensive. And so, it's going to be interesting. And it would be awesome if there's an EOP training on this, but there isn't. And that's the hard part, is that we take their guide or their checklist or their last year's approved guide, and now we have a checklist that changes it. So it's a little wild.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that idea. Anyone else? I do know that there is a small group of superintendents looking to talk to the legislature about increasing the SSA limit to like 160. And I know we're making some headway in the discussions. I know it wouldn't affect everyone in the group, but I was thinking of having one session on the SSA up to kind of looking at the 140 to 160. I think they're asking to have the small school adjustment limit be increased to 160. And I think that could be a discussion, but it probably wouldn't be for the whole group. But I saw Angela, yes, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Chris, what about getting Greg on, Greg Wyman, and doing a legislative update, since this year is going to be pretty brutal on all of us?
Yes. I do think it would be really helpful too to just have a smaller school perspective. I know I went to the Capitol on Tuesday with Greg, and I think having him on to discuss like legislatively what is going on in the Capitol would be helpful. But I know Howard Carlson reached out to me afterwards. I mean, there's the legislation going through being proposed, I would say, for just straight up proficiency to determine letter grades. And our school, and I was telling this to the legislators, and so they asked me to testify for the State Board of Education next month. But we have 59% English language learners, and 45% of them are migrant. So it means they've moved within the last 2 years. And I just can't even imagine that they're considering any scenario like that in their proficiency only model. And I know there's going to be like, well, you want those kids to be proficient too. And it's like, of course we do, but it's not going to happen by the end of the school year. Like, it's not going to happen by the end of the year.
Yeah. I saw Greg's email about that, and I'm actually meeting with my teachers tomorrow to explain that to them. And then I'm going to email Greg with names of our teachers that are going to go, that want to testify in it's fine for me to get up there, but I think our teachers need to be the ones testifying and explaining, hey, this is what this means, because our school, we're a B, but we live off growth.
Yep.
We live off growth. And so, and I have a 23% sped population right now. And so that growth saves me from being a D school every year. If I went proficiency, I would imagine a lot of us are going to struggle with proficiency. So we're actually taking time out of tomorrow's PD to discuss that and get some teachers up to the state who are doing the testing and talk to our state board about how detrimental taking up growth would be.
I love that. I love the idea about the teachers too. I think that will be very helpful. That's great. Huh? Anything else before we?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So my attendance rate is what I'm having an issue with. And I actually find in my community is about 89% like poverty right now for my school community. When you try to send those mean letters home and when you try to do your job correctly, I'm actually learning the parents get a bad view of the school and then they pull their kid. And my attendance rate has dropped to like, it's not horrible. It's like 91, 92. But I used to be, pre-COVID, I was always around a 94 to 96. And I don't know. I tried the Matt Force truancy officer this year, and that was even worse. Like, that was like, oh, they're calling the cops on us, even though they're not the real cops. So the attendance piece is always a little scary for me because I don't think we do bad, but it still kind of punishes us. Like this year, I went to a C by 2.5 points. And I had lost my attendance points, and my growth was still wonderful. Stephanie Congress, who got an A last year. And I go, but Stephanie, my growth was perfect last year. I had better growth than you. And she's like, oh, no, you didn't. And Peter, that's kind of what you were hinting at, is I'm like, Yes, when our kids can stay here for a year or two, they learn that growth is amazing, but they come in without preschool, without the early childhood development, all that stuff that is so important that we have to take years to catch up. So attendance kills me because I pretty much lost my B status, and I'll probably gain it back this year because that seems to be the pattern. I went from 2 points of being an A last year to 2 points to being a B this year. It's really hard when you yo-yo like that.
I will say that there is a rural cohort of grad partnership. It is full this year, but I will keep you on the list for next year where they're really focusing on improving attendance. And our school is one of the schools, and we have tried the warning letters. We have tried that. We are seeing a super improvement in our attendance this year. Because we had a little student council get together and we decided what would get you to school. And they came up with little tiny incentives at the end of every month. If you have perfect attendance for the month, you can't be tardy, you can't be late, you can't leave early. But if you have perfect attendance for the month, we got little plushies from like Oriental Trader and Amazon and stuff. And our younger kids, attendance has improved so much with these 70-cent plushies. And they get really excited about it to where the kids are talking about it. And I don't know if it will continue, but I think we're going to improve our habitual truancy rate was at 24%, and it's been there for about 3 years. So about 1 in 4 of our students were habitually truant. I think we're going to cut it in for this year. And we're seeing a lot of reading growth in our little kids because they were the ones that missed the most. And it has been really helpful. So it's an idea if you want to consider it. And if there's a spot open in the grad partnership next year, I will reach out to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kristen, I can't remember what the conference was, but my business manager was at a conference yesterday. I think that Chuck was putting on. I can't remember, but ADE made a statement yesterday at this conference that they're going to start cutting funding to schools when they have the 10-day absence, and they're going to start enforcing that.
That is true. That is true.
So that's coming. And we're redoing our strategic plan right now, and attendance is a huge issue for us as well. And so attendance is a focus for us, and we're going to sit and meet with our kids because we pushed the letters, we pushed the meetings this year, we pushed the phone calls from teachers, and it's helped a little bit. But we're going to start talking to the kids and saying, okay, what do you want to do? What's our monthly rewards? We're all teachers, but I loved having my name with a star next to it. Something back to those days where we're having some type of. We do monthly celebrations, we do brag tags. Mm-hmm. But our issue isn't elementary, it's our 7th and 8th grade students.
That's me.
It's our middle school kids. We got to do something to get them here. That's what's actually bringing our numbers down. So, but ADE is talking about now finally enforcing that 10-day absence, not dropping them, but they're going to cut your funding for it.
Isn't it consecutive? Isn't it only just the 10-day consecutive?
They talked about 10-day consecutive. There's a formula that I'll give. I'll find it from my CFO and I'll give it to you. But they talked about 10-day consecutive, but they also talked about that they're not going to let you do the 8 days, take one off, and then restart it. So, and they're going to concentrate on the 40th to the 100th day. And that's going to be the period where they pay attention. Afterwards or before, they said they're not worried about it, but they're going to focus on those days.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good times.
Bye.
Peter, is that a bill that's moving forward?
No, that's something that's always been in place. ADE's just never really kind of enforced it.
Okay.
And it's just kind of been one of those things that have never been enforced. And all of a sudden, I don't know where they're getting the pressure from to start enforcing it, but they're like warning us now that they're going to start enforcing it.
Okay. Thank you. I was just curious.
Yeah. Kristen, I got to go. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
I know on that with the absences and everything, at my previous district where I was superintendent, it came down to we'd send in the reports and send them in, and it came down to the county backing us up and doing something. when we finally found a judge that actually was going to do something, it made a difference. And that was up in Apache County. But,
We're talking about the truancy, like
yeah, the truancy is on that, the 10-day and whatever, your 10% and your, whatever, when you hit those numbers, we'd send the letters and we'd send it to the county and nothing would happen. And finally I got a hold of a judge and stuff that actually wanted to do something. And, one parent was so mad, they got 3 $100 contempt of court, tickets because they kept on arguing with the judge and wouldn't close their yap, and finally they shut up, and because all he was going to do was give them a slap on the wrist and say, hey, get your kids in school if I see you again. And this guy goes, cost him $300 because he didn't want to listen.
Well, and I will tell you, Steve, just because I know where you are, I was working with the courthouse here to try to get something set up like that. Hopefully we can work together, like with Gila Bend as well, so that we can all be on the same page about attendance, and just work with our local courthouse here. I know in when we were doing our cuts program through Maricopa County, it's supposed to go through family court when they go. And that for us is in downtown Phoenix. But I'm hoping that there can be some kind of workaround to just have it right here.
Yeah, because most of my families are in Gila Bend and stuff. So that makes, I know quite a few of yours are too. So, if the 3 districts there in this corner of Maricopa have something that works for us, that'd be great.
I think so. I think it would be really helpful. So, thank you so much for the discussion at the end as well. I really appreciate it. I also really appreciate the ideas. I will be working on those for our upcoming session. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know the time is up, so I look forward to seeing you all again next month. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Hey, Kristen, you said you're going to share the slides from today?
Yep.
Great. Okay.
We'll send it all out. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.